1-4. Seems like so long ago. Well, the Phillies 9-3 since that 1-4 start when the skies were falling and everybody wanted Gabe Kapler gone and fired and he's Chip Kelly 2.0, all this shenanigan madness. But look at the Phillies now, 10-7. Like I said, 9-3 in their last 12 games. Let's talk about it. Tony Del Grasso is here. I am Adrian Vedcu. And we're going to talk some Phillies today.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So 9-3 since that 1-4 start. As we've seen, the Braves were basically a lot better than everyone expected. They're 10-7 right now. Obviously, we kind of expect them to fall eventually. And then you got the Mets, 13-4, currently the best record in the National League through 17 games. So obviously those teams were better than thought, and Phillies have gone and won 9-12. So what are your thoughts on all that?
My thoughts are, if you wanted Kapler fired after that first game or after that first series, I'm probably not your friend. I don't know.
There was a lot of people, man. It was like 50%, and we got a lot of hate.
Yeah.
There were people that wanted you to shut the fuck up in our comment section. Yeah. There were people that told us we were idiots. I mean, my God.
Yeah, I didn't check the comments, but I wish I had. Like I said, I mean, I look at it this way: if you wanted Kapler fired, you also probably wanted Brett Brown fired. And how does that look now? You also probably wanted Doug Peterson fired. How does that look now? People really jumped on him because a couple questionable decisions in that first series. Like I said, if it had been the middle of July, nobody would have even noticed. It just, happened at the worst possible time for him. But as you could see, like we've all been saying, this is actually a pretty good Phillies team that has a legitimate shot to make the playoffs. And you're seeing how well they've played after that, horrendous first series.
Yep. And, the thing that I wanted to see is like, all right, is he going to remain stubborn and continue to do the things that he wants to do, or is he going to kind of find that middle ground between being, modern and progressive and, old school kind of thinking? And as we've kind of seen lately, he's trusted his starters a lot more. So early, like those first 5 games, he was pulling his starters after like 5 innings, didn't want them to go through the lineup a third time. But as we've seen lately, I mean, Nick Pivetta's pitched really well, and he's letting them go a little bit. Aaron Nola is the other one. So kudos to Gabe, man, because Chip Kelly, for example, that's what everyone wanted to compare him to, Chip Kelly 2.0. But Chip Kelly was always so stubborn and never wanted to derive from his scheme. Well, Gabe Kapler has shown that he can kind of adapt a little bit, and he's kind of learning on the fly. And that's what we had to do as fans, You got to give him a chance. You can't just fire the guy after 5 games because, you didn't like what you saw from a guy that's never done this before.
Yeah, I mean – let's put it this way. Chip Kelly was, for lack of a better phrase, trying to reinvent the wheel in the NFL.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, Kapler is not trying to do that. He's not even close. He, like I said before, he's trying to do what the Astros and the Dodgers and the top handful of teams have been doing for the past, 3, 4, 5 seasons now. Really, really plus. Everything he's doing, every other major league team does, at least to a degree at this point. The shifting, the number of pitching changes. He's just, kind of more open and out about it, more so than others. But, this theory that he's this mad scientist who is, all about himself and wants people to think he's this baseball savant, I think is really far-fetched. I think he is just a bit of a quirky guy, who he certainly has his beliefs and he's going to stick to them. But I definitely think, and we like you mentioned, we've seen he is flexible. If you present information in front of him that, is based on facts and based on actual merit, he's going to listen to it. He's not just strictly, all right, the numbers say this, so I'm going to do it this way. No, like there's flexibility there. So, we've seen now, Nick Williams has come out. with some not so nice things to say about Kapler. And there was also an anonymous quote from another player. So we'll see how that part of it shakes out. But for the most part, after those first 3 games, Kapler's done a good job.
Yeah, and I guess the next thing I want to see is this, because obviously in that 12-game stretch, they've faced some pretty inferior competition. You beat up on the Rays, you beat up on the Marlins. All right, that's great and all, but how are you going to handle the Nationals? How are you going to handle the Dodgers? How are you going to handle some of the upper echelon teams in the National League? And that's kind of the next step I want to see.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's they have definitely been facing some of the less talented teams in baseball. It's not like they've faced an ace in quite a while. But you can only play who's on your schedule, and they're doing what they're supposed to right now, which is beat up teams that aren't going to be in contention. So they'll definitely get tested soon, and we'll see. And then they'll go through their ups and downs, and it's a long season, man, real long season.
Yep. So that's Gabe Kapler, a little Gabe Kapler talk to start. And next thing I want to get into, I want to get into the baby-faced assassin. Check his ID. I don't think he's old enough to drink. Scott Kingery, killing it right now. He had a bases clearing double the other night against the Rays. He had a freaking home run rob tonight. I know you couldn't catch the game. I don't know if you saw that.
I heard about it.
Oh, yeah. Freaking killed this ball. But he's got 7 doubles already. I believe he and Shohei Ohtani are the only rookies so far that have 7 doubles or more. So he's playing 5 different positions. He's raking. He's hitting the ball hard. He's been great and worth every penny so far. That 6-year, $24 million contract looks like a bargain right now.
Yeah, I think a few years from now, and a lot of people predicted this on the day the contract was announced, we're going to look back and say, wow, it's an absolute bargain. Because the potential this kid has is really, really high. And the thing about him, his floor isn't very low. To me, worst case scenario, he's like an Ian Kinsler type. And Ian Kinsler is actually pretty damn good second baseman for the last, 10 seasons.
Yep.
So if he ends up being Ian Kinsler, that's not a bad thing. If he reaches his absolute fullest potential, wow. You're talking about a guy who, you're potential 30-30 guy, really. And at second base, that's really, really hard to come by. We had a guy in Chase Utley who was that type of player for a long time, but that was super rare. The best second in baseball for the past handful of seasons has been Jose Altuve. Mm-hmm. And if, I know Kingery certainly isn't close to that level yet, but that really should be the player he's striving to be. There's really nothing he doesn't seem to be able to do on that. You saw him, they threw him out in left field the other night. He threw a guy out on plate. He's just a ball player. And really, and I think, scouts and stuff had mentioned this, the only thing that's really separating him from being like an elite prospect is that he just doesn't walk enough yet. And that is something that certainly a player at his age, and with his baseball intellect, or at least seems like his baseball intellect, is going to get better at. So, with Hoskins and Kingery, Phillies have the 2 guys there that are really just super high potential.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed with him, man, when he gets down 0-2, he fights, and he fights back. Even that base clearing double that I referenced against Tampa Bay, that was an 0-2 count. And he hit a double, cleared the bases. So he's a battler. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a ton of guys in baseball who could hit a home run and steal a base in the same game. And he looks like the type of guy who's going to do that consistently. Not to mention, when he eventually, I think eventually Cesar will get traded, and Kingery will eventually be the guy at second base every day.
Yep.
You're going to realize he's a Gold Glove caliber defensive second baseman. which I think, people don't realize that either because they have him shuffling around at all these other places. But, I saw him with the Iron Pigs occasionally. He's really, really – he's definitely an upgrade over Cesar Hernandez at second base defensively.
Yeah. All right.
So he's just –
yeah. Next thing I want to get into. So we talked before the season in our Phillies preview. All right. You have Jake Arrieta. You have Aaron Nola. But who's going to be that third guy that really steps up? And so far the Phillies have had two that have stepped up, Nick Pivetta and Vince Velasquez. We saw him again tonight. So he's pitched 6+ innings, I believe, in his last 3 starts. May not seem like a big deal, but it is for him. 24 strikeouts and only 5 walks. Only 5 walks for Velasquez so far in his starts. And then you got Nick Pivetta, 21 strikeouts in 21 of the third innings. His curveball usage has increased by 11% already from last season, .97 whip. He's been really good as well, so 2.49 ERA. Talk about those two guys.
Yeah, so I'll start with Pivetta first. He also, I think he only has like 3 or 4 walks on the whole season and 4 starts, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's both of them, just absolutely drastic difference, at least in the early going in terms of control. Both of those guys last year really just could not get the ball over the plate when they wanted to, really just had no idea where the ball was going. I read a thing, I forget who wrote it, but there's been a noticeable difference, and if you actually watch with Pivetta's delivery this year, he's just keeping his hands up a little higher. Essentially just it allows for less movement, which means he's going to be able to repeat his delivery more consistently, which for a guy, his size is important because usually the bigger you are, the harder it is to repeat your delivery. And that's why a lot of times you see guys, 6'5" and older, they have trouble controlling the ball. Well, he's made the change, and we've seen the results. I mean, the guy has an electric fastball and a curveball that seems sharper than last year, and he's throwing strikes. And you're throwing 97 on the corners and have a hook like that, you're going to be able to get a lot of people out. So he to me, he's been kind of the biggest how do you put this? Just kind of the biggest pleasant surprise this year.
There you go.
Because if I had to bet, I would have said that him and Velasquez would have ended up in the bullpen either late this year or next year at some point. But as it's going right now, they're going to keep them both starters. So onto Velasquez, basically the same thing. I don't know if he's made any significant changes in his delivery. I haven't noticed any, but bottom line is he's throwing more strikes. And, we talked about this all last year too. Both of those guys, they miss bats. Their problem is just the free passes. So if they could control the strike zone, which they have for their first few starts, they absolutely have the ability to be good pitchers. And we've seen, the results now.
Yeah, and that's the thing we talked about before the season too. I mean, you kind of brought it up there briefly with Pivetta. I mean, he's got electric stuff, but not always able to harness that control. And the same can be said with Velasquez, obviously. So you got to give Ric Kranitz, the pitching coach, much credit.
Yeah, absolutely. All these guys need to be given credit. When you have, I think Velasquez is 23 or 24 and Pivetta is 24 or 25. Mm-hmm. You have kids like that have absolutely electric stuff, but just so inconsistent with their deliveries and just can't get the ball over the plate consistent enough. That's almost like a pitching coach's dream, because you're like, here's guys that I could just tweak just a little tiny bit and turn them into really good pitchers. And so far it's been a job well done. Now, again, it's the middle of April and, a lot could change, but certainly with Pivetta, there has been an obvious difference between this year and last year.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing we can kind of get into before we depart, by the way, we're going to try to do this every week. Every week we're going to do a Phillies show and hopefully get you guys, more Phillies coverage from the Bitter Birds. It's a fun team, really fun to watch. So the last thing I want to get into is the bullpen, because obviously the bullpen had its fair share of struggles early on. I mean, we saw it opening day. Take Aaron Nola out, and then the bullpen kind of implodes. But Gabe Kapler has done a really nice job of mixing and matching. And it seems like, the relievers who kind of, in the start of the season, they didn't really know what their roles were. Well, now they kind of know what they are. And I feel like they're thriving a little bit more, obviously, because of that.
Yeah, I remember. I forget if it was after the first series or after the first game, but Kapler was getting a lot of heat, and he reiterated that, hey, I still believe bullpen is our strength, and we're going to play accordingly. And a lot of people rolled their eyes, laughed, or chuckled, like, oh, come on, look at what they just did. And he's been proven right once again. The bullpen is at least one of their strengths. I don't know if I would say it's their number one strength. I kind of think their lineup might be
I agree.
Their true strength. But the bullpen is good, and the bullpen, let's not forget, is going to get back their two best pitchers relatively soon in Hunter and Neshek. So all of a sudden you're going to have more options, veteran options, guys what you're going to get out of every night. So there's just a lot of really exciting things going on with the Phillies right now. Yeah,
for real. There really is. And I guess that pretty much wraps it up, unless there's something else you want to talk about.
I mean, can I just say my boy Hoskins?
Go ahead.
I mean, he just again. I don't know. He is special, like special. The numbers that he's putting up at this age are absolutely incredible. Like I said before, he has a chance to be better than Utley, Howard, Rollins, all those guys. Like I keep saying, right-handed Joey Votto. But then on top of it, he did something the other night that really impressed me. I don't know if you saw Herrera didn't slide into second base, cost him an out, probably cost him a run.
Yeah, actually, it's probably something we could have gotten into. A little no-double Herrera moment. Two of them, actually. Right,
and basically all that happened then was after that half inning in the outfield, Herrera, came to Hoskins when they were exchanging gloves, and, Herrera basically said, I'm sorry. And Hoskins, from the report, basically was like, yeah, you can't do that again, but we want you to keep being yourself, keep bat flipping, keep being electric, keep hustling, try to cut down on the mental farts. But the point I'm getting at is Hoskins has either realized that he needs to be the leader, or Hoskins is a natural leader. And that's something that has been lacking on this team for, 5-6 years now? So Not only Hoskins, I think, on his way to being a special player, it looks like they might finally have a leader in the clubhouse too.
There you go. All right, so the Phillies, they got a 10-game homestand coming up. Starts with Pittsburgh tomorrow. Pittsburgh has been kind of a surprise so far this season. I believe they're 12-6. Then you got the Diamondbacks. And when the Diamondbacks come to town, that's going to be kind of more of a barometer to see, where this Phillies team is. If you can win that series against the Diamondbacks, that'll be impressive. And then you got Atlanta, the third series coming to Philly. So next 10 games at home. Phillies so far are 10-7 on the season. And if the season ended today, they'd be a wild card team. But obviously really, really early on here. 17 games in out of 162.
Yes, sir.
There you go. All right, is that it? Is that all you want to say?
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
All right. So every week we'll be doing these 15, 20-minute videos, and hopefully you guys enjoy it, because the Phillies, again, fun product to watch. I'm Adrian Fedhue. That's Tony Del Grasso. We're out of here. Peace.
Later.